Pluto in Aquarius, Archons, crypto, and the battle against digital tyranny. In this video, we're going to decode the current and upcoming 20 years that just started with Pluto going into Aquarius, and we're going to understand what awaits us and how to navigate it. So let's go. Okay, folks, in this video, we're going to do 4 things. First, we're going to bid farewell to Pluto in Capricorn, which is the transit that just ended. And we're going to look back at that and understand what happened. It's very important to integrate what happened to you when you have gone through an experience, and that's true on a collective level as well. So we're going to do that. And then secondly, we are going to look at the initial signs of Pluto going into Aquarius. That just happened basically this week. Pluto went into Aquarius for good. Wasn't there already earlier this year, but now it happened, just went out and came in again, and it's there for good. And the initial signs are very important because they tell you what the upcoming transit is all about, right? So you need to be very attentive and aware. That goes for your personal transits as well, but even more so for collective transits. And third, we're going to decode the larger historical and archetypal context. So understand how this transit fits into the larger historical cycles, but also importantly, the spiritual background, right? And if you're interested in Gnostics, the Gnostics or Gnosticism, if you're interested in Archons, then I'll have something really interesting for you as well in this video. And then lastly, I'm going to give you some very concrete insights into what to do personally as an individual who is looking to navigate this coming phase better. Now, as a caveat, this is not one of those videos where we go through every sign. If you're Cancer, if you're Taurus, if you're Gemini, and so on and so forth, this is what it means for you. Maybe we do that in future as well. But what we do here is much more big picture. It's for the big picture thinker. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a futurist, if you're somebody who wants to understand the zeitgeist, who wants to understand the general collective consciousness that we're going through in order to maneuver and position yourself up for the future, then this video is for you, right? It's not so much like the nitty-gritty of this person, this person, this person. It's more like the big picture thinking that we need to understand, right? And astrology helps us in that. The astrology helps us in understanding where the world is going to. And obviously, all of your own personal ventures and endeavors, they fall in that collective space as well. So you need to be able to contextualize and navigate in that space. Okay, so let's start with Pluto in going through Capricorn. That's what was just before, right? That's the transit that we've gone through in the last few years. Actually, let me just see, we went through this when? Pluto entered into Capricorn in, let's see, in 2008, right? So here, you see this here? Pluto went into Capricorn exactly when? 2008. What is this? This is when we had the financial crisis, global financial crisis, right? Like the bankers, the banksters that got bailed out by the states. And then after in that phase over these many years, this is how it started basically. And then what else did we have which happened in this phase, in these 17 years since Pluto went through Capricorn? Well, what we should have seen is that anything to do with, with authority, with accomplished and attained structures, with the state, with governments, all of that is Capricorn, right? That should have gone through a death and rebirth, right? And depending on which level of spiritual maturity we have, we are going to see that happen either on a, in a dark way, in a way that brings more destruction, or we're going to see that in an evolutive way, in a way that, we overstand the shadows and we reach a higher level, right? So which one of these happened? Well, in the one hand, you could say that a lot of dark to do with the state was brought to light in these years, right? For instance, we now know about the deep state. This was not a thing before. This is very clearly Pluto in Capricorn, this last phase, right? Pluto in Capricorn, the darkness and the shadows of the state come to the light. This is literally the deep state is now seen. This is literally, textbook Pluto through Capricorn, right? But what else? What else? Well, 2008 financial crisis, the states took over. They became very, very powerful because they bailed out the banks and they took over all the financial systems. They started to print more and more money. Like they've been printing money like crazy, right? The states also became, many states became in these years like authoritarian, more and more authoritarian, monsters almost, authoritarian monsters. This is the dark side of Pluto through Capricorn, right? Pluto going through Capricorn. But then you also had an opposition, a birth of a new thing emerging. The birth of a new thing, which is trying to topple the power of the authoritarian states. Namely what? Bitcoin, crypto, to 2008, was born right after the financial crisis, right? In that same energy, right? Of the states and the banks taking over, the states taking over the banks, bailing out the banks and so on, right? That whole energy, it all fits together. This is one narrative. This is one narrative. This is one Pluto through Capricorn narrative, right? States becoming authoritarian, deep state coming to light, alternative to the states being born, right? Alternative to state power, which is namely decentralization and crypto being born, right? All of this falls into the previous cycle. Now we have entered the new cycle. Now we have entered the new cycle with Pluto going into Aquarius, right? It started already a little bit, like it was already like earlier this year. There was, I think, this was in the beginning of the year, March, April, sometime around that, right? It was already there for the first time, January. I mean, the spring of 24, actually end of 23 already, right? End of 23, it was happened already. Pluto was there. Look here, so you can see here, it goes in January, end of 23, beginning of 24, it goes in, then goes out again for some time, and then comes in again, and now it's going to be there for what? For 20 years, right? 20 years all the way up to 2043, 2043, which is when we have the shift into Pisces. You can see here, 2043, 2044. Okay, so this is a long phase. And what does this long phase tell us? Now, Capricorn was about authority, attainment, states, and so on and so forth, right? Aquarius is about what? Aquarius is about ideas, social ideas, right? It's an air sign, air's idea, like mental, right? Material, but mental material that's fixed, that's fixated, that becomes solid ideas. These ideas are not just, exploring like in Gemini, right? This is Aquarius. Aquarius is about ideas that become fixed, fixated, fixation on ideas. And these fixed ideas become the foundation of society, which is why Aquarius is related to the 11th house. 11th house is social associations, right? Associations, collectives, groups. So the ideas that shape societies, right? Also connected to this, the innovations that shape societies, the technologies, ideas, and innovations that shape society. That's Aquarius. So this area is now going to see a death and rebirth, Pluto, right? But you have to understand, Pluto, oftentimes a lot of astrologers, a lot of modern astrologers, psychological astrologers and so on and so forth, woke astrologers, and fake astrologers and a lot of other people, they present Pluto as if it was something positive, Oh, everything is positive. Actually, there's nothing, everything is good, everything is good for you and so on. Everybody's different, everybody's good, everything is good, every experience is good. This is not true. It's not true. It's simply not true. There are hard forces. There are difficult, challenging, dark forces. It doesn't mean that those dark forces, you have to be afraid of them. It doesn't mean that when they come in your chart, when you have a hard aspect with any of them, you have to be afraid. No, you have to take on that challenge. But it's a challenge. It's dark, right? It's not supposed to be easy. Now, Pluto coming through Aquarius. Pluto is actually a force of shadow. It brings out the shadows. It brings out the repressed and oppressed, the dark shadows everywhere. And only if we manage those shadows, if we understand and transform that understanding, then we have a rebirth, right? It's not automatic. So now it should show itself. What did I say before? We're going to look at the initial signs. The initial signs, right? Initial signs are really important. So when a planet changes its sign, right? It's in your own chart as well. If you're seeing Mars going, for instance, in a new sign in your chart, right? It goes globally, but in your chart, it means in that house that is ruled by that sign, in the initial days, you're going to feel certain changes. You're going to feel certain energy shifts. And the same thing is true for the collective level, okay? So Pluto just shifted into Aquarius. What should we see? We should be seeing struggles around technology, struggles around social ideas, struggle around social innovations, okay? Battles and power struggles around these things. So what are we actually seeing? Let's look at the first thing. One thing that is really big right now is the whole conversation or the whole discourse around liberation of technology versus censorship, right? Versus censorship. So this year, with Pluto going in and out, we have had the battle around X, for instance, right? X was acquired by Elon Musk, and then it was made a free speech platform, while at the same time, a lot of, we're seeing everywhere else right now, censorship of social media being driven up dramatically, drastically, right? For instance, the UK is now imprisoning people, right? Is now fining people, putting people in prison for saying things on social media, right? This is new, right? People are going to 2 years, 3 years to jail for posting an opinion on social media, on Facebook, right? For saying that, whatever, like, it's horrible that, these people come here and they do horrible things to children and stuff, and they go to jail for that. They go to jail longer than the person who actually perpetrated, who was the perpetrator who harmed kids, right? Which is a very strange kind of state that we're living, but this is the reality. This is not even all. It goes even much further. If you look at Canada, right? In Canada, exactly under Pluto going into Aquarius on the first hit, right? Early in spring of this year, they introduced legislation, which is something called the Online Harms Act. There's a certain kind of legislative package around it, which allows the Canadian state and certain agencies that they're setting up for this, digital agencies, supervision, surveillance agencies, to send people to prison for life, for online harm or online hate speech. And their online hate speech is basically defined as whatever government or whatever this kind of quasi-independent government agency decides that is hate speech, right? So completely Orwellian situation where you can be sent to jail forever, for life, for saying something online, for posting, for making a video, right? And talking about something which doesn't conform with the current mainstream consensus that's being forced on people, wherever the case may be, right? I don't want to get into all of those details, and you know why. Now, that's happening under Pluto going into Aquarius as well. Now, we should be seeing the markers or the signs of these people, of the people that are involved in this. It's not just, it's not just them. There's lots of others, obviously, but there are some main actors who are carrying this energy, and it should show in their charts, and it actually does, and I'm going to show you. So if you have a look at this is the chart of Elon Musk, right? This is the chart of Elon Musk. And Elon Musk, he has a conjunction of Mars and North Node, you can see that here, in Aquarius, right? And this conjunction, so Mars and North Node, this is like the fated, destined mission, right? Or the fated action or activity, Mars, right? And what is this with? This is with Sad al-Sud, which is it's a fixed star. It stands for the unities or the united force of people to come together to pursue a mission. Then you have Masterman, Odysseus, and Drake. Odysseus and Drake, these are what? These are explorers, right? The masterful explorer, and Augusta. Augusta means basically, this means glorious. So you have here the glorious exploration, the glorious and masterful exploration of people who come together to go beyond together, right? To go beyond into the great beyond together as explorers. And this is in Aquarius, obviously, right? So what does it stand for? We have seen as well Elon Musk present this year his great kind of steps forward with SpaceX. So spaceship just had this massive launch just exactly in the week where Pluto enters into Aquarius, right? And he had previously this year also he caught the capsule that came back, which is completely unprecedented. And spaceship is the ship that is supposed to take humanity to Mars, right? So that happens exactly with Pluto going into Aquarius, right? And you can see in Elon Musk's chart, you can see that in a strong Aquarius focus on basically a fated mission to be an explorer for humanity, to bring humanity let's say the positive realizations of technology becoming a reborn, becoming a force for development and progress of humanity. That's Pluto realized in Aquarius when it is realized in its higher form, in its higher realization form, right? But at the same time, you also have a very clear marker in the chart of somebody like Justin Trudeau that I just mentioned, right? Canadian government. So with Justin Trudeau, you have here also a North Node, but with Venus in Aquarius, right? North Node, so a fated endeavor that makes him rich, or that brings him pleasure, or that brings him luck, right? That is kind of fortunate for him, which is Venus with North Node. But it's what? It's Justitia, Hecate, Lempo, and Sauron. Sauron is basically from the Lord of the Rings, the eye, the all-seeing, the surveillance eye. Basically in the digital world is digital supervision, surveillance, right? So surveillance through justice systems, which are Hecate and Lempo, both of them stands for demonic forces or dark magic, right? So you have here in the chart, you have an Aquarian energy, and this is in the beginning of Aquarius, right? So this gets activated right now with Pluto. Pluto is basically here right now, right? This gets activated right now in the first couple of years of Pluto being in Aquarius, right? You have here a karmic mission to bring surveillance, right? To bring surveillance into, through justice systems, injustice systems, right? And this is in the chart of Justin Trudeau. Now, I'm showing you this why? Because just to make it a little bit more personal, I could tell you otherwise all of this, many examples, and this helps us to understand the archetypal lens that we have to see things through, right? There's an archetypal lens that allows us to understand what's going on, but then there's always going to be myriad personal destinies of all of the different players who are carrying forward the archetypal energy, right? And in their charts, you will also be able to see how they play a role in this new collective energy that's coming up right now. And this is how you want to understand, how you can understand your own chart as well. Once you start to put your own chart into relation to the collective energies, that's when you understand what your role is, how you're going, and when, in which area, for instance, you're going to be able to understand in which phase of life, in your upcoming phases that you have in life, you can play an important role, in the big collective story as well, right? Or just even understand what your role is, right? Obviously, that's all possible with astrology, and we can go really deep into that in astrology. If you want to do that together, we can always work together. You can find all the details in the comments, in the sections below, in the notes below for how to work with me. Also, the reminder again to subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so yet, and make sure to like this video, hit your notification bell, write some comments, tell me in the comments what you think about these topics and how you see this whole topic, this whole set of themes play out for yourself. I'd like to have the conversation going on, and also it helps to boost the video. So that's one of the main forms that we see right now in the initial phases of Pluto Aquarius, that energy, right, of power struggles, shadow coming to light, playing out in this phase, right? What else do we have? in the same time frame, in the current time frame, we have a big narrative right now around crypto being on the rise, right? Crypto is just starting its latest massive bull run right now, which is one which, you know, has the potential to bring crypto into mass consciousness, mass awareness by 2025. Very, very likely with the other constellations as well that exist that I've talked about before, that by mid 2025, this bull run will be so massive that a lot of the world will start to take note, right? A lot of governments are going to start to invest. The Trump government has started to take crypto as a strategic reserve now. This is also coming, you know, this is the first out of many. There's going to, all these states, a lot of states are going to start to come in, and it's going to become a thing on the global level. Now, at the same time, we have CBDCs, central bank controlled digital currencies, taking the next steps right now and are basically ready to roll out exactly with Pluto going into Aquarius, right? So Brazil is just launching its very, very advanced pilot, its test. They're going to be one of the first nations, if not the first, to introduce CBDC, nationwide. And the other places that are very advanced, the Eurozone, obviously, the Eurozone. So the Eurozone is looking to introduce CBDCs as early as spring Q1 2025, Q1 2025, right? If you look at Eurozone, it makes perfect sense as well. If you look at their chart, the chart of the Euro has a strong Aquarius position. You can see that here, Aquarius. They have a Neptune in Aquarius in the first degree, and that gets hit right away by Pluto, right? By Pluto, which is now moving into Aquarius, right? You see this here, moving into Aquarius, bang, here in 24, and then in early 25, it activates exactly here, that Neptune, right? So the dreams about social technologies, the utopian dreams about social technologies, now they become a powerful reality, right? And then how does this story continue? By 2029, you're going to see it continues until 2029 when Pluto moves forward and then hits finally the Uranus here. See this here? Hit the Uranus. You got this here. You see this? Pluto moves forward by 2029 to hit Uranus. At this time, either the CBDCs, the Euro CBDC, is either going to become a powerful dark reality that oppresses every type of freedom, Pluto on Uranus, that oppresses completely any type of freedom, or in the other case, it's going to be overthrown, right? Because Pluto on Uranus is also revolution, right? So either it's going to completely oppress all types of freedom, or it's going to, at this time, you know, there's many other things that can happen until 2029 with the European Union. It might be in a very, very different situation at that time, and it could be overthrown. This is the other situation. This is the other possibility, right? So this battle is super key and super important that's going on right now, and it's starting right now between crypto and CBDCs, right? So we saw with Pluto in Capricorn, crypto started as this response to the overreach of the states, right? And to the complete control of states of printing money, right? Being able to print money, or rather of central banks, right? And which are intertwined with the states to be able to print money. And now, as we're going in this next shift, in this next stage, the battle continues, but now on the terrain, in the domain of technology. Now it continues in the domain of technology. It's going to be a battle of technologies, right? Crypto is a key technology which stands for decentralized freedom, decentralized, it kind of stands for the highest aspirations of the Aquarius sign, right? If you will. So it's the age of Aquarius is the age of crypto. But at the same time, you have the introduction and the enforcement of technologies of control, of which CBDC is a key, right? CBDC, if you don't know it, it's basically a type of money where the state completely knows and controls everything you do, everything you spend, every little cent and penny that you spend, it's under complete control of the state, and the state can at any time switch off your wallet because you only have one central wallet, centralized wallet, which the state manages. The state owns the keys to your wallet, basically, and can at any time switch off if they don't like your political opinion, if you don't like you, if you're saying something wrong, whatever, right? Like, just like when you see right now, places like Canada and the UK are starting to lock people up, potentially forever for saying something that doesn't fit the current narrative, right? So what can they, if they also own the keys to your wallet, to your only wallets that you have, electronic wallet, they can just basically shut you down immediately, right? So this is all part of a struggle that now it becomes very clear what Pluto and Aquarius is about, right? It's about technological, it's about social ideas, technological struggle, right? About control of tech, whether tech is going to be used for the control of the people, right? The oppression and the control of the people in the interests of plutocratic elites. That's Pluto in 11, Pluto in Aquarius, right? Or whether it's going to be used for the overthrow or, right, the uprising against those structures in order to decentralize, in order to free up the people, right? Which is the realization, the higher spiritually evolved realization of Pluto in Aquarius. And it's not just CBDCs, obviously. There's a lot of other technologies of control that are involved in this. Digital twins. All these big tech companies are building digital twins right now of you. Digital twin, they take all your data, whether it's Meta, whether it's Alphabet, right? They take all of your data and they create this twin of you, which they can run predictions on, right? It's exactly you, basically, modeled as a data model that can predict exactly what you're going to do next, right? And then once that digital twin becomes perfect, then you can be manipulated because they can run infinite amount of simulations on this digital twin, and then they can show you exactly what you need to see and hear so that your decisions can be manipulated, right? Digital twins, CBDCs, BCI, brain computer interface, right? Yes, Elon Musk is at the forefront of that with Neuralink, but at the same time, and this is super Aquarian, this is super Pluto in Aquarius as well, right? But at the same time, he's said many times that he's going into this first so that he doesn't allow that technology to fall in the hands of those who want to monopolize the data, right? Imagine if you have a company, if your brain is connected, you don't have a smartphone, instead your brain is connected directly to the web, and you have a company like Meta, right? Like somebody like Mark Zuckerberg there, who despite what he's said now he's changed, right? But what he's done always was to take the data and make it his, right? He owns the data, not you, right? Not you. The company owns the data. Now imagine that happens with your brain, right? Imagine that situation, that business model, but in your brain as opposed to on your phone, right? So that's Pluto in Aquarius. That's Pluto in Aquarius, the highest form of it, right? The highest form of oppression, the highest form of shadow possible, right? Not the highest in terms of the most evolved, but the highest in terms of the most shadow, the most, the most clear and illuminated shadow possible, right? So that's the kind of the worst case scenario, basically, right? Okay, so now it's very interesting at this point to think about a parallel which exists, right? And the parallel is because when we're talking about this, technologies of control, CBDCs, brain-computer interfaces, right? And digital twins, all of these things that are being built to control the masses, virtual reality pods that people can go and sit in and just kind of zone out and be in their zone there and in some imaginative world, right? All of these things. Imagine now what that leads to as an end scenario. It leads to people basically having no more agency at all, right? You're just a cog in somebody's machine, which you don't even have anymore in your own imagination or your own internal world, at least in the previous times, the workers who were, in the 19th century industrialization, who were workers in the factories, at least they had their own imagination and their own thoughts for themselves, right? But you won't even have that. All your thoughts, your imagination, everything that goes on inside you also will belong to the machine, will belong to the matrix, right? Will belong to the system. Now, there's a couple of images to understand this better. The Matrix, obviously. The Matrix, the movie, the Matrix trilogy, right, exactly explains this. And exactly is a kind of a visionary, prophetic vision on this coming dystopian scenario, which is Pluto and Aquarius scenario, right? But there is an older model. There is an older model, a more spiritually deep model that goes to the core of this. And that's the Archons. The Archons in the Gnostic teachings. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what this is. The Gnostics, they were a group, a spiritual group that were based on the secret teachings of Jesus Christ, right? The secret teachings of Jesus Christ. The Gospels that were hidden by the church. The Gospels that were excluded by the official church, right? There was lots of other Gospels, the Thomas and Mary Magdalene and lots of other Gospels, right? It was not just the ones that made it to the Bible. And all of these secret teachings, they talk about this, they talk about these lords of the world, right, who are these dark lords, and they're controlling people. They're keeping people controlled and trapped in these illusions. And these dark lords, they're called the Archons. The Gnostics also perfectly understood astrology and astrotheology. So they had 7 levels of Archons for one for each planet. One for each classical planet. In the classical astrology, you have 7 planets. Each one has an Archon. Each one has a dark lord. And the dark lord of that planet basically controls people with the dark qualities that go with that planetary attribute, right? So for instance, Mars is about drive and aggression, right? But the dark lord energy of Mars, the Archonic energy of Mars, is about brutality, right? Brutal aggression, mindless, stupid, brutal aggression, right? So that's a vice, a sin that the Archons use to control people, right? They control people by creating programs in them where they're just going to fight against each other, or where they're going to, pursue mindless, stupid pleasures, right? Hedonistic lifestyles without any purpose, right? Or whatever the case may be, power games and so on. So each level has its own archonic structures. Now, there's a truth to this. There's a lot of truth to this. Namely, the Archons are fallen angels. They're the fallen angels. They're the dark forces, which we can see in the astrology. Every planet has its realization form, also has a dark realization form, which to this day, right, those dark forces try to keep people trapped, in a unilluminated place, right, where they have no access to the light which is the Lord Jesus Christ. And for the Gnostics is a sort of a world beyond this world. There's a world of light beyond this world, which we can only access if we learn to elevate our consciousness across the levels, right? And this idea is very, very close to, idea is very close to what we're seeing happen now with these technologies. Because these technologies, the technologies of control, they are the newest and latest and final level of the archonic control. The archonic control of our minds, the archonic control of the different levels of reality and different levels of existence. Now, I was going to tell you as well about the different cycles and, when Pluto was in Aquarius last, but I'm going to just go through that very quickly because it's not so important at this point, and also it's going to expand the video too much. But Pluto, every time when Pluto is in Aquarius, we're seeing major revolutions of the social forms, of the social ideas, right? The last time it was 1778 to 1800, Pluto in Aquarius, right? That's when we had the American War, the American Revolutionary War, the French Revolution, and the French Revolution, most importantly, right? The overthrow of the old order. Pluto goes through Aquarius, right? Overthrow, death of the old order. of the old systems of social ideas that are governing society, right? One time before that, 1530 to 1553, you had the Protestant Reformation, right? In Europe, the Protestant Reformation happened as well with Pluto in Aquarius. One time before, and so on and so forth. Every time you go back, you had an important phase of social revolution, of social change, right? This time it's going to happen as well. This time it's going to happen as well. Because we're in it right now, we can't really see where the direction is going. We only see, what we're seeing is that the old systems, social systems are dying. The old social systems are dying, right? The liberal democracy, the unipolar world order, which was, everybody thought that's the only system, that's the only game in town, that's the only thing that exists. That is starting to die. That is starting to go away, right? And instead, people, you know, the globalists are very, very open. They don't care anymore about playing the game of, oh, this is liberal democracy and such. And that's like, okay, no, you don't need this. They're moving away from that. They're moving very fast away from that because they're realizing there's no, you know, people are not buying the hypocrisies anymore. So they're moving away from that. And they're going to introduce a system of mind control, archonic mind control, which I predict will be something like digitalism, right? Something like digital control society. They will have a name for it. Obviously, they're going to have a nice name for it. It's not going to call it digitalism, but they're going to call it some type of, you know, digital organized society. They're going to put aside any type of pretenses for democracy, liberal democracy, and so on and so forth. They're just going to say, look, we organize things better, and maybe they're going to put up some big threat and some big kind of, you know, obviously there's going to be engineered catastrophes, wars, other, you know, things that are happening around us, engineered things that are happening, the climate and so on and so forth. A lot of things are very, very shady what are happening there, right? And all these threats are going to get people to basically accept digital control, total digital control, accept becoming becoming a piece in that control system, right? Where everything you do, all your life is controlled by technologies of total surveillance. This is what Pluto and Aquarius looks like the next 20 years for us. But, however, there is an alternative. There is an alternative. And the alternative, I've said this many times here again, the higher form of realization of Pluto and Aquarius is not that, you know, technologies are used to control the masses, but it's that the people rise up against the technologies of control, right? The people rise up against the elites, the cabals, the power groups, and instead bring about the rebirth of Aquarian energies. Rebirth of Aquarius is what? Decentralization. This is why crypto is key. So now, let me wrap this up. What does it mean for yourself, personally, individually? What should you do? Couple of things we can do in this time, in this upcoming time. The world is not going to be fun necessarily. It's not going to be easy to navigate the next 10, 20 years. It's not going to be easy to navigate, right? It's not going to be easy at all to navigate. I didn't tell you, at the end of these 20 years, then we have the big Pluto-Uranus opposition in 2043, which is when the whole world changes, the massive global world revolution, complete change of the world system, right? 2043. But until then, what? Until then, what? From now till 2043, there will be wars. There will be engineered catastrophes. There will be more and more digital control. What can you do? What can you do? We have to, if you want to stay out of that loop, you have to start already, before it's too late, before everything is already under control. You have to start to learn to create your own sovereignty, your own independence through the use of technologies, right? Where possible, you have to take your money into self-custody, right? Take all your assets into self-custody, all your assets into Bitcoin, all your assets into, you know, where you own the keys. You own the keys, not some state, right? If possible, take your communications to Starlink, right? Take your communications to Starlink, not be dependent on this state, that state, and so on and so forth. Then we have to trust the intentions of Elon Musk and his companies. Yes, well, that's the way it is, right? That's the way it is. Unless there are other alternatives, this is the best alternative. This is the best alternative, right? Unless there are other alternatives where we can create systems that are even more sovereign, even more independent. Third, build networks, build communities. Right? You have to build your own networks. You have to learn gradually, learn to live off grid. I don't mean like go completely off grid, completely out of civilization, but learn to become more independent of the grid, because the grids are going to be turned to control systems. They will be turned to control systems. So we have to learn to become a little bit more independent, a little bit more able to maneuver the grids, right? Have more flexibility. Maybe be able to move to different places as well, right? Unless you're really, really needed in one place where you have to take care of your family or your people and so on, have to be able to be a little bit flexible to move to different places, because it's going to be this game, this cat and mouse game, where some places are going to be havens of freedom, and then other places are going to shut down, more, and so on and so forth. It's going to be this game over the next many years, right? So being flexible is good. Lastly, join communities, create communities. The most empowered form of Pluto, or of Aquarian energy, Pluto going Aquarius, is having a powerful group. Pluto is power, community is Aquarius, right? Having a powerful group. In these next 20 years, lone wolves will not be able to thrive. You cannot be a lone wolf. This is not a time for a lone wolf, right? A lone warrior cannot thrive in Pluto and Aquarius. This is a time for groups, for powerful groups. Create powerful groups. Create powerful communities. We're creating a powerful community right here on Ultra Sapien. Be, in the loop. You will see everything will come out with time very soon. There'll be a lot of ways to participate and contribute and share, but create powerful communities wherever you are yourself, right? That's the next thing, because those networks is what you're going to have to rely on as shit hits the fan, as things go south, as things go more and more towards that darker pole of Pluto and Aquarius, right? So all of these things we can do in order to navigate. All of these things we can do in order to create alternative systems. The crypto space, Web3 space, is going to be huge. Applications that you can build in Web3 and crypto that empower people for decentralizing their identities, decentralizing their communications, decentralizing their social networks, decentralizing their interactions. All of these are going to be absolutely huge in the coming time, even though there's going to be an uphill battle against the forces of social control. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to wrap this up. I think I gave you a lot. You can work with this. Please give me in the comments what you think about this, how you feel about this, how you want to connect more. We're going to create channels and platforms to connect more, but let's use what we have right now and let's have a conversation. Let's start this work together. Take care of yourself. All the best. Be blessed.